Welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. This is a safe space where we invite healthcare providers to unapologetically be themselves after the working day. My name is Jennifer George, and each week I will connect you with guests and stories that will help transform your stress to success and fulfillment. Are you with me? Grab your drink of choice and let's chat. Hey everyone, welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. I'm your host, Jennifer George, and I'm here to chat with you today a little bit about universal healthcare right now in Ontario and how I believe it's actually creating a divide. And I'm coming from the perspective here of system navigation of the healthcare system. So myself personally, I've been going through something and I've been having to navigate the system in order to get to the bottom of it. And I've been having a really hard time doing this. I can't even explain to you how fragmented things have been, how frustrated I have been. It's unbelievable. And here I am sitting here wondering how patients with no healthcare literacy or experience whatsoever are navigating the system right now. Because I'm a provider who can't quite navigate it well enough, and I consider myself pretty empowered. And I'm having a hard time. So I've gone through a multitude of channels. I've gone through my family physician. I've gone through the ER. I've gone through a clinic. I've even done telehealth. And I've gotten little bits and pieces of relief. But probably my most frustrating visit was when I did finally go to the ER because I had had enough. And I demanded blood work. I demanded diagnostic testing. I demanded a referral and got none of it. I was received by a physician who, in my opinion, was condescending, who was arrogant, egotistical. And, I actually had said to the doctor, I said, "Did you actually read my history?" That's what I said. I said, "Did you actually read my history?" The doctor was chatting and I finally recognized that, that he actually had no clue about my history. And so I said, "Did you actually read my history that I just gave a few minutes ago?" And it caught him off guard. And he was kind of like, yeah, and he kind of summarized it, but he really didn't read it. He really didn't read it. And nor did he ask. He was just in there to give a prescription. And it frustrated me because I felt like he was talking to me no better than he would speak to the furniture in the room. That's how bad it was. And I remember texting my family and saying this was ridiculous. I couldn't believe that I was experiencing this. And, it's so mind-blowing because people will say this, and it frustrates the crap out of me when I hear this. People will say, "Well, I don't care if the doctor is nice. I just want them to know what they're doing." And my response to that is, why isn't it both? Why can't we have a compassionate, understanding person who's transparent at least and takes responsibility and still have someone who's competent and knows what they're doing? It doesn't take any more time. It doesn't not take any more time, okay, to be compassionate. It doesn't take any more time to have a conversation rather than a dictation towards your patient. Okay, it takes no more time. It's just a completely different approach. Okay, so I'm thinking of the person right now who is received by a disengaged physician or a provider of some sort and what they must be feeling. And I've done talks on advocacy for organizations. And every time I ask this question, when you walk away from a provider, do you find yourself feeling more empowered or disempowered? And I'll be honest with you, people don't respond right away because they don't want to say it. And then as my presentation goes along, then people start coming forward and they start saying that they've felt disempowered. Okay. And until we start recognizing this, and demanding more and realizing that we have everything we need already as a system. We have everything we need. Okay. We have what we need. We have excellent, competent providers and we have great resources, but we have no idea how to help our patients use them and use them maximally. And so you know what ends up happening, guys, when this happens is people get so frustrated by the system and trying to navigate it and feeling unheard and unrecognized and unseen and misunderstood that they say, forget about it. I'm not going to bother. And then they suffer. They suffer in silence until things get really bad, and then they go to the ER. And then that's when our system starts to see somebody and admits them and then thoroughly investigates. But if somebody on the front end is starting to notice that something's changed in their lives and it's not severe enough yet, it's not a critical situation yet, you're mostly in limbo. And then you decide it's not worth it because people are not listening to me. And that's the problem with our healthcare system. And that's the problem right now and why people are becoming more unwell. Okay, so it's also that mental health component that we are putting on people unknowingly. All of this is unintentional, of course. I know our system is overloaded. I'm a provider. I see it every day. Trust me, I know it. But we still need to take responsibility for the conversations we're having with people. We still need to take responsibility in being transparent, being fully taking the time to understand what someone's going through and not just reading something and prescribing something. Okay, there has to be a dialogue that happens there. Okay, and if there's no dialogue, then there really is no solution. And this person, this patient, is going to come back through the system again. And it's going to be worse. It's going to be more taxing on the system. And I wish people would recognize this right now before it continues to get worse. Okay, so I hope that when you're listening to this podcast, it's more than just a rant. Okay, it's a revelation. It's an understanding that we can do better. Okay, and we have to recognize that the majority of people are not healthcare providers in our province, for example. So their literacy is going to be very limited. The other thing is every patient by this point really should have access to their medical records. But yet we have these electronic health records that are kind of all over the map. Okay, there's really no cohesiveness to them. There's really no chronological order to them. So to even look at the chart is overwhelming, right? So how is a patient going to navigate that as well when a provider can't either? On top of that, you could look into navigators, like there are healthcare navigators that are coming up and out now. This is a new development, which I think is wonderful and great, and they can be hired by an organization to help patients navigate, but they can also be hired personally, right? So they're considered a navigator and an advocate. Okay, so they could also be hired personally. So if you're somebody who's going through the system and you're having a rough time, you can hire a healthcare navigator to help you with the literacy component, to access resources and information, to prepare for consultations and things like that. So they do exist. The problem with that is not everybody can afford that. Okay, so that's where the organization should have a healthcare navigator on board, helping people do that comprehensively. Okay, that I believe, this is the link, one of the biggest links right now that I believe is the difference between wellness for patients and illness right now. And the less our patients have access to the resources that they need based on the basis of an inability to navigate the system and healthcare providers unable to also help them navigate the system, that's going to create more illness down the road because, like I said, people are going to get frustrated and not bother. And then they're going to suffer in silence, or they're going to do their own thing. So they might get involved with other medications. They might do things that are not safe. Okay. And that creates a whole other cascade of issues. Okay. Like, to me, this is just so obvious. It's just right in front of our faces. And yet we continue to move along like this isn't happening. So maybe when you're met with a patient, maybe it's something that you can start thinking about is what their experiences have been like, the patient experience, how it's been navigating the system. You could start having those conversations. I mean, I hear them every day. So like, I just hear them every day from patients. I don't even have to ask. So, I know what the hospital healthcare system has been like. Okay. And also the community care system for the most part. But if you're somebody in private practice, I start thinking about this when a patient comes in, like when they're sharing their experiences, start wondering, like, how has their experience been in getting to this point? And have they gotten what they need? And can I help them get there? And how can I do that? How can I facilitate ease in access and navigation with what I know, with what I'm capable of doing? And if I can't, can I refer them to somebody else who can? Because sometimes this in itself is the source of illness, or will be the source of illness. So if you like this podcast, please take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram. My handle's at bestobsessedwithjen. If you want to have a conversation about this, you can also just DM me and we'll talk about it. This is something that I'm pretty heated up about because I've been experiencing it myself, and I'm just deeply empathizing with other people who are probably going through the same thing, which is probably most people. And I just simply want to empower them, but I also want to raise awareness among healthcare providers that this is an issue and that this is in itself a source of illness for some people, okay, that you might come across in your practice. So until we chat next time, remember to stay well and stay happy. So if you guys like this podcast, please subscribe and leave an honest review. Your feedback means everything to me. Your reviews are what moves this podcast forward, and I always appreciate receiving them. If you want to get a hold of me directly, reach out to me on social media. My handles are in the show notes, and you can always subscribe to my weekly newsletters at jennifergeorge.co so that we can stay connected. So until next time, thank you guys so much again for your ongoing support.